American preppers spend an average of $3,000 on tactical gear, evacuation backpacks, and equipment that fills entire garages. Meanwhile, in Japan, an average preparer spends only $200 and fits everything necessary into a backpack waiting by the door. In Switzerland, every citizen is required by law to have a bunker shelter. In Cuba, the preparers survive with almost nothing. In Norway, the government supports a seed vault in case of the apocalypse, safeguarding the world's food supplies. I spent several weeks studying how 7 different countries approach preparedness, and what I discovered will completely change your perception of survival. Some of these methods are more economical, some are more rational, and the approach of one country is so effective that it makes American training methods wasteful. Let's find out what the rest of the world knows that we do not. Welcome back to the Survival in the Bunker program. I talk about global preparation strategies that most Americans have never heard of. Before we start our world journey, don't forget to subscribe. This channel is dedicated to practical preparation that really works. If you need international secrets of preparation, you should follow us. Today, we will explore 7 countries on 4 continents. We will see preparations for earthquakes in Japan, mandatory bunkers in Switzerland, survival in guerrilla warfare conditions in Cuba, preparations for extreme weather in Australia, strategies for cold climates in Finland, disaster resilience in South Korea, and government food reserves in Norway. By the end, you will know which method is best for your situation. You will also discover items you have never seen in American preparedness stores. Let's start with Asia, with the country that has perfected compact emergency preparedness. Japan. Japan experiences about 1,500 earthquakes a year. Its citizens cannot afford to hope that disaster will pass them by. They know it will happen. Therefore, they have turned preparation into a science. Japanese philosophy differs from American. While American preparers focus on equipment, Japanese focus on systems. This distinction matters. In Japan, every household maintains what is called a hananjo bukuro, an emergency evacuation bag, rather than a tactical gear backpack. It is a practical survival kit for up to 72 hours, weighing less than 15 pounds. What is actually inside? Let's analyze what the Japanese prepare, and the Americans ignore. The first item is portable toilets, not camping toilets, but single-use bags with powder that turns waste into gel. When earthquakes destroy sewage systems, this becomes critically important. Americans buy expensive portable toilets, while Japanese purchase 50 disposable units for $20. The second item is emergency rice crackers. These are not military rations, but compressed rice biscuits with a shelf life of 25 years, rich in calories and actually quite tasty. A month's supply costs $30. The third item is aluminum emergency blankets, but the Japanese version reflects 95% of body heat compared to our versions, which reflect 80%. Superior engineering, same price, category. Item 4 is a helmet included for emergencies. When buildings collapse, head protection is more important than a tactical vest. This should be obvious, but I've never seen an American prepared person with a helmet in their emergency bag. Point 5. Water purification tablets and foldable water containers. Not expensive filtration systems, but simple chemistry. That always works. A compact philosophy. Here, Japan is revolutionizing emergency preparedness. Everything must fit into a space smaller than a wheeled suitcase. Why? Because in Japanese apartments, which average around 700 square feet, there is no room for American-style preparation. This limitation forces efficiency. Every item serves multiple functions. Nothing superfluous. Zero wasted space. Government support. The Japanese government provides free earthquake preparedness guides to every family. They conduct mandatory evacuation drills. Community centers stock supplies for emergencies. This is not individual survival. It is coordinated community preparedness. When disaster strikes, everyone knows the plan because they have trained together. A lesson in efficiency. Japanese preparation proves that more does not mean better. Better means smarter. A 6-kilogram set that you will actually take with you is better than a 27-kilogram backpack that is too heavy to carry. American prepared people. Take note. Japan has been preparing for disasters longer than most countries have existed. Their methods work. Next, we head to Europe, where the government not only recommends preparation but mandates it legally. Switzerland. Switzerland has enough space in nuclear bunkers for 114% of its population. This is not a typo. They can shelter more people than they have citizens. This is what mandatory government preparation looks like. The Swiss approach. Since the end of World War II, Swiss law requires that every new residential building include a bunker for protection against nuclear attacks. Not a basement, but a fortified concrete bunker with an air filtration system, protective doors, and radiation shielding. The penalty for not following the rules is to pay for a spot in the public shelter. No exceptions. What do the Swiss prepared people stockpile? Item 1. Iodine tablets, which the government distributes for free to every family living near 15 nuclear facilities. They protect the thyroid gland from radioactive poisoning. Americans can buy them, but most are not even aware of their existence. Point 2. Long-term food supplies, not frozen camping meals. The government determines the necessary reserves: rice, pasta, oil, sugar, and canned goods for at least 2 months for each person. The government publishes exact quantities needed. Point 3. Water storage, a minimum of 9 liters per person. In Switzerland, there is crystal clear mountain water, but they still store it because infrastructure can fail in a crisis. Point 4. A battery-operated radio tuned to government emergency frequencies. When the power goes out, this is your information line. Switzerland broadcasts emergency updates on specific frequencies known to every citizen. Item 5. Medical supplies exceeding the recommendations of the American Red Cross. Swiss kits include materials for first aid, burn treatment, and radiation exposure remedies. Cultural differences. Swiss readiness for emergencies is not an option, but part of citizenship. Military service trains every man in emergency response skills. Annual drills test the functionality of bunker systems. Community preparedness is national identity, unlike in America, where crisis readiness is often seen as paranoia. Switzerland demonstrates that state-supported training truly works. Their survival rate in crisis situations is significantly higher than in countries with voluntary systems. The reality of bunkers. These are not end-of-the-world shelters for the rich. This is mandatory infrastructure, such as roads and sewage. Every apartment building has a bunker. Each housing unit includes space for a shelter in the construction cost. This raises an interesting question. If Switzerland can afford mandatory bunkers for all, why can't we? The next stop is Cuba, where prepared people hone their survival skills with almost no resources. Cuba has endured a 60-year economic blockade. Cubans do not stockpile, they find innovative solutions. What they learned about survival in conditions of scarcity will completely change your perspective. Cuban context. When the Soviet Union collapsed in 1990, Cuba lost 80% of its imported goods overnight. No fuel, limited food, minimal supplies. This period was called special time, what Americans might call a complete social collapse. Cubans not only survived, they began to innovate. What do prepared Cubans know? First, skills are more important than supplies. Cubans focus on repairs rather than buying new things. They can fix anything with almost nothing. A broken fan becomes spare parts for 3 other devices. The second is urban agriculture everywhere. Roofs, balconies, and vacant lots are all transformed into places for food production. Cuba produces 50% of the vegetables consumed in Havana within the city. Americans buy frozen products, while Cubans grow fresh vegetables in concrete jungles. The third is solar water heating from scratch. They create functional solar heaters from black pipes and recycled materials. The cost is less than $20. The lifespan is more than 10 years. The fourth is bicycle culture. When the fuel ran out, 2 million Chinese bicycles arrived in the country. Cuba became a bicycle nation overnight. Now one cannot rely on fuel at standard prep. The fifth is resource sharing in the community. Personal stockpiling is ineffective when everyone is short on resources. Cubans created neighborhood networks for exchanging tools, skills, and problem-solving together. The principle of resourcefulness. This is what Cuba can teach. Supplies eventually run out, but knowledge remains. You cannot stock up to get out of a long crisis. You need skills. American preparedness culture emphasizes shopping, while Cuban culture focuses on training, allowing survival even when stores are closed for years. Reality with food products. Cubans preserve everything. They sun-dry, salt, ferment, and pickle. Not because it's trendy, but because refrigerators often break down. They have retained preservation methods that Americans forgot 70 years ago. Every Cuban grandmother knows 20 ways to preserve food without electricity. How many prepared Americans can boast of this? A lesson in adaptation. Cuba demonstrates how people can adapt when necessary. The question is not whether you can survive with fewer resources. The question is whether you will learn the necessary skills before it becomes critically important. Ahead, we will go to Australia to learn how Australians prepare for one of the deadliest natural disasters on Earth. Australia. The forest fires in Australia in 2019 claimed the lives of 34 people, destroyed 3,000 homes, and burned an area larger than the state of West Virginia. Their prepared people do not stock up for if, but for when. The reality of Australians. Australian prepared people face unique challenges: extreme heat, water shortages, vast distances, bushfires, floods, and dangerous wildlife. Their preparation strategies differ from American and European methods. What do Australians accumulate? The first item is fireproof blankets that withstand temperatures up to 1,000 degrees. These are not ordinary rescue blankets. They serve as the last line of defense when you find yourself trapped among raging flames. Australians keep them in cars rather than homes because fire moves faster than you can run. The second point is rainwater collection systems. This is not for self-sufficiency, but for survival. During droughts, municipal water supply is restricted. Australians collect thousands of liters of water from rooftops using tanks. This is not a luxury in rural areas. The third point is emergency kits in cars. Prepared Australians assume they may need to evacuate in just a few minutes. Everything necessary is stored in the car: water, food, documents, communication devices. The fourth item is solar energy systems with batteries. When forest fires disrupt power lines for weeks, solar energy keeps refrigerators, communication devices, and medical equipment running. Australians began installing solar panels 20 years before it became popular in other countries. The fifth item is first aid kits for snake and spider bites. Australia is home to 20 of the world's 25 most venomous snakes. This is not paranoia, it's statistics. Every resident of rural Australia knows how to provide first aid for bites from poisonous creatures. Heat management strategy. Australian trained individuals understand what Americans miss when preparing for desert conditions. Heat kills faster than cold. Their preparation focuses on temperature control, maintaining hydration, and preventing heat illnesses. They store water in quantities that Americans would consider excessive, more than 200 liters per person in rural areas. Because when the temperature reaches 115 degrees and water delivery stops, this will provide you with water for 2 months. The factor of distance. The population density of Australia is 8 people per square mile. In the USA, this figure is 94 people per square mile. This changes everything. Prepared Australians cannot rely on help nearby. An ambulance may take several hours to arrive. The nearest town may be a full tank of gas away. This forces reliance on one's own strength, which Americans often do not face. They prepare, believing that help will not arrive, because often it simply cannot get through. Forest fire protocol. Every Australian knows their fire danger level. They make decisions about whether to leave or stay based on weather forecasts. They practice evacuation routes, since forest fires can move at speeds of up to 15 miles per hour and only warn with smoke on the horizon. American ancestors prepare for potential threats. In Australia, ancestors rehearse the threats that arise every year. Next, we head to Finland, where Cold Wars are better arranged than modern survival strategies. Finland. This country has 830 miles of border with Russia. It has been conquered twice in recent history. The preparation of the Finns is not theory. It is a memory of survival. Their approach combines government coordination and individual responsibility, making American preparation seem inappropriate. Finnish philosophy. Finland has over 50,000 bomb shelters capable of accommodating the entire population. These are not historical relics. These are modern objects that are actively supported and equipped with air filtration systems, medical supplies, and communication devices. For example, in Helsinki, there is a shopping center built over a shelter for 5,000 people. The parking lot also serves as protection from explosions. This is a normalized infrastructure. What do Finnish ancestors know? The first point is food supplies for 72 hours as mandated by the government, not as a recommendation. Finland publishes specific shopping lists: canned fish, crisp bread, powdered milk, honey, and ready-made meals. Everyone keeps these minimal supplies. The second point is backup heating with firewood. In modern Finnish houses, there is electric heating and wood stoves, because when the power goes out in winter at -40 degrees, electric heating becomes deadly. The third point is iodine tablets, distributed for free by the government, like in Switzerland. Preparing for radiation is not optional when your neighbor has nuclear capabilities. The fourth point is water supplies, at least for 1 week, plus backup purification tablets. The tap water in Finland is of the highest quality, but the ancestors suggest the possibility of infrastructure failures. The fifth point is battery-operated or hand crank radios. The government transmits information on certain emergency frequencies. Every Finn knows these frequencies. Unlike America, where emergency transmission tests are ignored, Finns actually listen. The effect of the call. Every Finnish man undergoes mandatory military service. This means that everyone has basic medical skills, understands how to distribute supplies, knows where the shelters are, and has practiced actions in crisis situations. This creates a population for whom preparedness is the norm. No stigmatization, no label ancestor, only citizenship. The legacy of the Cold War. The culture of preparedness in Finland arose from harsh lessons. When the Soviet Union invaded in 1939, unprepared civilians died. Finland vowed that this would not happen again. They built a network of shelters for 4.5 million people. They are stockpiling grain. They are maintaining strategic fuel reserves. The state and citizens are preparing together. Compare this to the individualistic preparation in America. Finland proves that coordinated national training works better than survival alone. Knowledge of winter survival. Every Finnish child learns to recognize hypothermia, build an emergency shelter, signal for help, and survive immersion in icy water. These are not scout skills. This is part of the school curriculum. American parents buy expensive winter gear. Finns teach children how not to perish in winter. Which approach saves more lives? In the next section, we will examine South Korea's high-tech approach to emergency preparedness. South Korea remains formally in a state of war. The truce of 1953 was merely a suspension of hostilities, not a peace agreement. Society lives in constant readiness, turning crisis preparation into a highly efficient process. What is the Korean approach? In Seoul, there are 3,257 bomb shelters within the city. Each building of a certain size includes a shelter. Each subway station also serves as a shelter. Citizens know exactly which shelter is designated for them. But South Korea is not limited to Cold War bunker technologies. They have modernized training with systems that do not exist in the USA. What are Korean residents stockpiling? The first item, mobile emergency kits using compact Korean design. Everything fits into much smaller sizes than Western counterparts. A 3-day food supply easily fits into a messenger bag. Second point, special rice and ramen designed for emergency use. This is not ordinary ramen, but specialized versions with a long shelf life intended for humanitarian aid. Shelf life of 5 years, high calorie content, requires only cold water. The third point, government emergency guides distributed across all apartments. These are not PDF files for download, but physical books delivered to every home with detailed instructions on emergency procedures. The fourth point, applications for warning about air raids. In South Korea, there are smartphone applications for emergency notifications. These are not optional notifications that can be ignored. Civil defense communication is checked monthly. Fifth point, filters for gas masks. Due to proximity to North Korea, preparation for chemical attacks is considered normal. Citizens maintain sealed rooms and basic protective gear. Technology integration. South Korea is a leader in crisis communication technology. During emergencies, the government sends location-specific instructions via the cellular network. No app is required. Each phone receives notifications. Compare this to the American emergency alert system, which most people perceive as weather warnings. A culture of drills. In South Korea, civil defense drills are held monthly. A siren sounds. Citizens practice moving to shelter. It is not voluntary. Business stops. Movement ceases. Everyone participates. Americans practice individually. South Koreans act as a society. During a crisis, they respond as a coordinated unit, rather than as individuals striving to survive. Dual infrastructure. Urban planning in South Korea includes preparedness elements. The subway serves as a bomb shelter. Parks have emergency water sources. Parking areas have reinforced sections. This is preparation without stigma. It is simply infrastructure, a network structure of the community. Emergency response teams in the areas undergo joint training. Block captains coordinate actions. The community's food supplies are located in strategically important places. No one survives alone, as the system requires collective response. American preparedness culture emphasizes individual stockpiling and survival alone. South Korea proves that community readiness is more effective. The last stop of our world tour is Norway, where state food reserves and preparations for the apocalypse combine with practical Scandinavian efficiency. Norway manages the global seed vault in Svalbard, the ultimate reserve for humanity's food supply. But this is just the most famous part of their preparation strategy. What Norwegian preparers do will surprise you. The Norwegian approach. Oil wealth gave Norway opportunities. They chose preparation over individual bunkers or tactical gear, systematic national food security, and community resilience. What do Norwegian preparers accumulate? First, dried fish. Norway perfected this before the advent of camping companies. Cod, dried for months, becomes as hard as wood. It is stored for years and perfectly restored. This traditional preservation has become the foundation of preparation. The second is the supplies recommended by the government for a week. The Norwegian Civil Protection Authority publishes specific lists. Unlike the vague recommendations in America, Norway provides exact quantities: 18 liters of water per person, 7 days of dry food, 7 days of canned goods. The third is special clothing for harsh weather conditions as standard equipment. Norwegians do not buy tactical clothing for cold weather. They use equipment certified for the Arctic and intended for commercial fishing and the oil industry. It is better and cheaper than tactical brands. Fourth is backup heating in homes. Norwegian houses usually have at least 2 heating sources, electric plus wood or electric plus oil, because a heating failure in winter is deadly at the 60th latitude. The fifth is the storage of backup fuel. Norwegians keep winter fuel supplies, as getting stuck in the snow for several days is the norm, not an emergency. They maintain stocks of gasoline, diesel, and heating oil as standard practice. A food security strategy. Norway maintains strategic grain reserves sufficient to meet the needs of its population for 3 months. The state creates reserves, citizens accumulate, and stores maintain deeper stocks than in most countries. This is not paranoia, but the reality of the Arctic. When the weather closes roads and ports, food stops arriving. Preparation prevents hunger. Seed storage. The global seed vault in Svalbard stores over 100,000 varieties of seeds 400 feet deep in the mountain. It is designed for survival in the event of a nuclear war, asteroid strike, and climate catastrophe. This reflects Norway's philosophy: prepare for the worst, hope for the best, and share resources on a global level. American preparation is individual. Norwegian preparation is civilizational. They prepare not only for survival but also for recovery. Adapting to the climate. Norwegian preparers understand what most Americans do not. Climate dictates survival strategy. One cannot prepare the same way in Alaska and Arizona. The extreme latitude of Norway requires specific adaptations that can serve as lessons for the northern states of the USA. Norway has mastered preparation for long periods of darkness, survival in severe cold, safety during avalanches, and food preservation without electricity. An important aspect is community integration. Preparation in Norway includes organized volunteer networks. Communities coordinate their actions. Churches serve as distribution points for supplies. Local organizations support emergency readiness. This is collective security, not individual survival. When a crisis occurs, Norwegians respond as a nation, not as isolated prepared individuals guarding their supplies. The lesson is that preparation is more effective when everyone participates. What have we learned from this global tour on readiness? The first lesson: compactness is better than excess. Japan shows that you don't need to fill a garage with gear. A well-designed kit weighing 15 pounds surpasses 100 pounds of excess equipment. Prepared Americans accumulate, while the Japanese optimize. The second lesson: government support works. Switzerland, Finland, Norway, and South Korea demonstrate that coordinated national readiness saves more lives than individual efforts. When the government provides shelters, distributes supplies, and trains citizens, everyone survives better. This contrasts with American individualism in preparedness, where each relies only on themselves and hope is not a strategy. The third lesson: skills are more important than supplies. Cuba experienced a complete economic collapse, but the citizens knew how to adapt. They had no supplies, but they had knowledge. When the stocks of American dried food run out in 3 months, what to do next? Learn to preserve, repair, and invent. The fourth lesson: climate determines strategy. Finland's preparation for winter is completely different from Australia's preparation for bushfires. Norway's Arctic approach differs from South Korea's urban approach. Nevertheless, American articles on preparedness offer universal solutions. Adapt to your real environment. Lesson 5. Community is more important than isolation. Every country we studied emphasizes the importance of community preparation, neighborhood networks, coordinated responses, and shared resources. American individual training is statistically less effective than coordinated community survival. The sixth lesson: normalized training works better. In countries where preparedness is the norm of citizenship, participation levels reach almost 100%. In America, where preparation is stigmatized, participation remains below 5%. Cultural normalization increases survival rates. Lesson 7. Regular training saves lives. South Korea and Finland conduct frequent emergency drills. Citizens practice their actions. When a crisis strikes, they follow trained procedures instead of panicking. Americans plan but rarely practice. What do Americans do well? We excel in innovation. American training companies develop excellent technologies. Our food, freeze-dried, is world-class. Our water filtration system is excellent. Our equipment is often the best available. The problem is not with our gear. The problem is with our philosophy. We focus on accumulation instead of education, on isolation instead of community, and on equipment instead of skills. What are we lacking? Government support. In other countries, they provide bunkers, distribute supplies, establish standards, and educate citizens. American preparers are left alone with problems. Cultural acceptance. Preparation is a normal part of citizenship in other countries. In America, it is still considered paranoia or extremism. Coordination in the community. We prepare as individuals, getting ready to defend ourselves from neighbors. In other countries, communities prepare, supporting each other. The problem of adaptation. Can Americans learn these lessons? Cultural obstacles are significant. We value individualism. We are distrustful of government coordination. We resist obligations to the community. But here is the reality. Survival as an individual is effective in a short-term crisis. Long-term disasters require cooperation in the community. Supplies cannot last forever. Skills and neighbors are more important than equipment. Steps for American preparers. First, optimize your kit. Reduce weight and redundancy. Make it truly portable. Second, learn skills beyond just buying supplies. Practice food preservation, basic repairs, and emergency medicine. Third, build relationships with your neighbors. Get to know your neighbors. Create mutual aid networks. Fourth, diversify your preparation. Do not prepare for only one scenario. Climate, economy, and infrastructure present different challenges. Fifth, practice your plan. Training exercises reveal weaknesses. Test your equipment. Map out evacuation routes. Identify problems before a crisis forces you to do so. 6.